When we left off in episode 2, investigators stumbled on something they were never supposed to find. A floor that technically didn't exist. Floor 13. The building's blueprints had no record of it. Maintenance crews swore it wasn't there. And yet, behind a service panel in the elevator shaft, an entire hidden level stretched out, cloaked in dust, silence, and secrets. The discovery shook everyone who knew about it. But what the public never learned, what police didn't release, was that the real horror didn't come from what was found inside floor 13, but what followed afterwards. And it all began with a whisper. The girl who heard it. Her name was Maya Lopez, 28 years old, graduate student, freelance journalist on the side. Maya had an obsession. Urban legends, hidden histories, things that lived in the shadows of ordinary life, which made her discovery of floor 13 feel almost inevitable. You see, Maya wasn't just some bystander who happened to hear rumors. She had been following the investigation from day one. She'd filed Freedom of Information requests, dug through property records, and spent nights in the library combing through old city plans. And she was the first civilian to write about floor 13 online. Her article went viral. She called it, "The Floor That Wasn't Supposed to Exist." Within 24 hours, she had over 80,000 views. Conspiracy forums picked it up. Reddit threads exploded. People began speculating. Secret government project? Abandoned asylum ward? Hidden cult meeting place? But for Maya, the attention was double-edged. On one hand, she had proof her instincts were right. On the other, it put her in the crosshairs of something she didn't understand. Because 3 days after publishing her article, Maya told her best friend that someone had whispered to her. Not someone she could see, just a voice, close enough to feel its breath on her ear. And it said, "You've been invited. Don't say no." The first sign something was wrong. First, Maya treated it like a joke. She texted her friend Elena with laughing emojis, saying maybe she was just sleep-deprived. But by the next morning, her tone had changed. The voice hadn't gone away. It followed her from her apartment to campus, from campus to the coffee shop, from the coffee shop to the quiet walk home. Always the same words. Come. Don't say no. She didn't hear it constantly, only at strange, unpredictable moments. Once while washing dishes. Once as she turned the key in her apartment door. Once, terrifyingly, as she lay in bed drifting to sleep. The strangest part wasn't just the words. It was the feeling they carried. Maya described it in her journal like this. It doesn't feel like a request. Feels like an order. Like I'll regret it if I don't listen. Friends start to notice. By the end of the week, her friends said she seemed different. Distracted. Almost detached from reality. Elena told investigators later that Maya's eyes looked past her, as if she was always listening to something no one else could hear. During lunch, Maya suddenly stopped mid-sentence, tilted her head, and whispered, "I said I'll come. Stop asking." But Elena hadn't asked her anything. That night, Maya skipped their usual video call. Instead, she sent one final text before going silent. "Elena, if anything happens, it's because I didn't refuse. Remember that." The disappearance. On March 14th, 2022, Maya vanished. She left her apartment unlocked, her shoes neatly lined by the door, her phone charging on the counter. The only thing missing was Maya herself. Security footage from her building showed her stepping into the elevator around 11:57 p.m. She pressed the button for the ground floor, but the elevator never stopped there. Kept moving. The footage cut out. When the cameras came back online 3 minutes later, the elevator doors opened, but the car was empty. No Maya. No trace of where she'd gone. The note. The next morning, a maintenance worker found something in the hallway outside the elevator shaft. Piece of paper. Crumpled. Smeared with something dark. Maybe ink. Maybe blood. 5 words. Scrawled in hurried strokes. "I wasn't supposed to refuse." And here's the detail that made investigators shiver. When handwriting experts analyzed it, they confirmed the note wasn't written by Maya. Connection to floor 13. So how does this tie back to floor 13? Well, in the days after Maya disappeared, detectives cross-referenced her movements, and they found something strange. On the very night she vanished, motion sensors on floor 13 activated. The level had been sealed since its discovery. No one was authorized to enter, and yet, for 4 minutes, the lights flickered on. A camera inside the service corridor caught a single frame before cutting out. It showed Maya, standing barefoot in the hallway of floor 13, her head tilted, eyes wide, almost like she was listening, and her lips moved, forming a word the camera couldn't capture in sound. But investigators later guessed what she said. The same word the whisper had given her. Come. This was no random disappearance. It was an invitation, command she couldn't refuse, and whatever she walked into that night was waiting for someone else next. The investigation begins. Narrator, low, steady voice. When Maya Lopez disappeared, police initially treated it like they always do with missing adults. No signs of forced entry, no struggle, no ransom demands. Maybe she walked away voluntarily, one detective told reporters. Adults do it all the time. But Elena, Maya's best friend, knew better. She didn't just walk away, Elena insisted. She followed something, or someone. And the more investigators dug, the harder it was to dismiss that possibility. The interviews, Elena's statement. Police interviewed Elena first. She showed them the strange texts Maya had sent. The one warning, if anything happens, it's because I didn't refuse. Remember that. Elena described the whispered conversations Maya claimed to hear. She said it wasn't a voice in her head, Elena told detectives. It was external, like right behind her, always close enough to make her skin crawl. Detectives noted the unease in Elena's voice, but also her certainty. This wasn't just paranoia. Neighbors' reports. Then came the neighbors. One reported hearing footsteps in the hall late that night. Slow, uneven, like someone dragging their feet. Another swore they heard a woman's voice whispering near their door. But when they opened it, nothing. And here's the strangest detail. The neighbor described the whisper as not quite human, almost like two voices speaking at once, layered on top of each other. The apartment search. Maya's apartment was combed over inch by inch. On her desk, they found open research files about floor 13, blueprints, news clippings, even grainy photos from before the city sealed it. But tucked between the papers was something investigators hadn't seen before. A folded envelope. No address, no postage, just 5 words typed neatly in the center. Your invitation has been accepted. Inside the envelope was a single subway token, the kind the city stopped using 20 years ago. Forensics confirmed it. There were no fingerprints, no DNA, and the envelope? It was the same type of office stationery used by the building's management company, the very company that had denied floor 13's existence. The elevator footage. Investigators then re-examined the elevator footage. They slowed it down frame by frame, watching Maya step inside at 11:57 p.m. She pressed the button for the ground floor. The elevator doors closed. And then something strange happened. Instead of the panel lighting up for 1, another number flickered briefly. Not 2, not 3, 13. The number didn't stay illuminated. Just a flicker, almost like the system glitched. But the problem was, the building didn't have a 13th floor. Officially. Not unless you knew where to look. Detectives divided. Inside the precinct, detectives argued about what to make of it. Some believed Maya had orchestrated her own disappearance, an elaborate hoax to boost her writing career. Others thought she'd stumbled into something criminal, maybe a trafficking operation using the hidden floor as a meeting place. But then came the handwriting analysis on the note. I wasn't supposed to refuse. Every letter was jagged, written in what experts called a dissociative style. Like the hand that wrote it didn't fully belong to the writer. And yet, it wasn't Maya's handwriting. So who wrote it, and why leave it behind? The forensics twist. The note carried faint smudges. At first, they looked like blood. But under chemical analysis, the substance wasn't human. It was animal, specifically pig's blood. That detail never made it to the public. Police kept it sealed, worried it hinted at ritualistic activity. But behind closed doors, the case file now carried a new label: potential occult involvement. The witness no one expected. 1 week after Maya's disappearance, a man walked into the precinct, middle-aged, nervous, wearing a maintenance uniform from the very building Maya lived in. His name was Victor Ramos, and he had a story to tell. Ramos claimed he'd been working the night Maya vanished. Around midnight, he'd gone down to the basement to reset a breaker. That's when he heard it. A whisper, not directed at him, but echoing through the ventilation shafts. He swore he heard a woman's voice answering back. A voice he later recognized from the news reports as Maya's. She wasn't speaking in full sentences, just fragments. "I'll come. I won't say no. Where do I go?" Ramos told detectives he panicked and left the basement immediately. But before he did, he caught one final sound. Not Maya's voice, something deeper, a whisper that wasn't human. Floor 13. Investigators revisit Floor 13. With Ramos's testimony, detectives pushed for another search of Floor 13. This time, they brought more equipment: motion sensors, Geiger counters, even air quality monitors. The moment they stepped inside, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Dust lay thick on the floor, undisturbed, except for one set of fresh footprints. Bare feet, the size matched Maya's. They led down the corridor, stopping at a locked door. A door no one had ever been able to open before. And here's the chilling part. When forensics swabbed the doorknob, they didn't just find Maya's prints. The case deepens. Investigators found 3 sets of fingerprints on the locked door inside Floor 13. One belonged to Maya, one to maintenance worker Victor Ramos. The third? It matched no one in the system. Officially, it didn't exist. At that point, Maya's case shifted from a missing person report into something darker, tied to a place the city had tried to erase. Was she taken against her will, or had she accepted the invitation freely? 3 weeks later, the mystery deepened. A second invitation. Daniel Carter, a 32-year-old graphic designer living 2 floors below Maya, reported the same experience. A whisper brushing against his ear, commanding, "Come, don't say no." Unlike Maya, he called 911. Over the next 2 nights, the voice grew stronger. By the third, he recorded it. Experts confirmed the eerie, layered whisper wasn't faked. But the whisper didn't stop. Daniel began seeing Maya, her eyes wrong, her lips moving in silence. Finally, he admitted he'd answered, "Fine, I'll come." That night, the elevator glitched, displaying 13, before Daniel collapsed inside. Convulsing, he survived, but whispered to detectives, "They were testing me. I wasn't chosen." Connecting the dots. Digging deeper, investigators uncovered the building's past. Once a psychiatric facility where patients on the 13th floor claimed voices drove them to violence. They, too, wrote, "I wasn't supposed to refuse." The trail also pointed to a rumored cult, the Whisper Circle, who believed certain buildings could act as gateways. The subway token found in Maya's apartment matched their keys. 6 weeks later, contractors uncovered a hidden tunnel. Inside were bones, candles, and recorders. One tape looped the whisper. Another carried Maya's chilling voice. "I came. I didn't refuse. I see them now." The city sealed Floor 13. But whispers, neighbors swore, never stopped.